amongst people there. They said it was improper, yada yada. But people couldn't help themselves, and they wanted to engage with it, which I think is important.
I would say it went very well.
Yeah. If you look at it from usage and behavior.
Traction and
yeah, but in terms of the he got a the slap on the wrist and people were upset. But it did show, okay, you can put something out there that might be a social taboo and people will like it. People will like it, well, people may like it, and if they use it, and then you have something, you have their interest. And I think that's the psychology part of him and his computer science skills meeting each other.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know,
you think he was thinking about that when he made that app? Like, how can I use my psychology here, or it just came out naturally?
I don't know if it was a conscious thing. I don't know if I would say that it was also just unconscious, because there's a pattern of him continually like looking at people's preferences and taking that into account with what he builds. Again, it's more common now, but back then in 2002, it just wasn't as, much of a requirement. But I would say that even if it was unconscious, I think that he had a feel for it, an instinct for it,
like a taste.
Yeah, because I mean, he was well versed in building programs at that time, and then he also grew up with a psychiatrist parent. Founders Drive, baby, let's get it.
We back.
We are back, and we are. I mean, people see who's on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
So we are getting into the.
Thanks for clicking.
Yes, we are about to get.
Into Mark Zuckerberg as the founder of this week's Founders Drive.
We're about to Zuck today. We're about to Zuck. You know what I'm saying? We're about to Zuck.
Well, I mean, obviously one of the most famous founders of.
I ain't about it if we ain't Zucking, bro.
of the new era, the social media king.
Oh man! All right, but before we get into Zuckerberg, let's get into Constant's updates.
Yeah, we had a big deployment actually happen right before this episode.
Yes,
and that was all about bringing your team together. So now we allow you as a community member to bring 2 of your friends or team members with you to your community, where they can then have all the access that you have on that same community, which means they can set your design, they can offer items, they can manage your settings, all of those things, just so that you have, a broader scope of people that can manage the exact same business on Constance.
Yeah, I think a real example is just imagining if you're starting a podcast.
Yeah.
And you want to create a landing page, and you want to have a place where people can contact you across platforms. You'd want to basically set that up, but if you're doing it with somebody else, then you want to be able to
manage it
together. And that's kind of what we're doing with Founders Drive. I mean, the links used to go right to the community page, but now they're going to go to those landing pages, because it makes sense, because we can direct traffic that way, and it can be a little bit more clean of an experience. But just the real use case is just our use case right now.
Yeah.
That's how we're using Founders Drive. That's how we're using the link for Founders Drive. But some other things that we have around the corner, we have some dashboard updates.
Yes, big dashboard updates.
Yeah, we've been meeting with a lot of users, just getting feedback, hearing about their experience, how they're walking through it, and how they're resonating with different features, seeing what people click on, what people don't.
Yep.
That's a really important part, I think, of product development, is getting real hands-on feedback. And we just noticed that we can really make that transition between the onboarding and getting into the weeds of content, the tools, the community tools, the monetization tools, the workspace tools, and then the AI companion that you have throughout the whole application.
Exactly.
And so we have some updates that are going to be coming early next week as well. So there's a lot going on there. Hopefully some of the updates make it easier to digest, so you don't just get there and you're like, there's a lot here, but I don't even know where to start.
Right.
So yeah, what else is going on in the world of business, content creation, economics, all that stuff that a creator or an entrepreneur should be aware of?
I mean, I keep coming back to the fact that we are still seeing job losses. Over 100,000 people have already lost their job, and that number's not going down. And so, I mean, obviously, there's the whole, like, if you haven't started it yet, it's a good time to start.
Yeah.
But if you're already in the arena, this is a great time for you to actually
explore
grow.
Your options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of job loss. I saw that Target recently announced that they were laying some people off.
Yeah.
Which was very strange because they sounded very optimistic about it.
Yeah, they always tend to.
They were like, we just haven't been hitting the target.
Yeah.
And we are going to let some of you guys go so we can invest in our personnel. And it was like, wait a minute, huh? And it's like, yeah, you know, we're going to make a great investment in our people. And I'm like, I just imagine that exit interview, right?
Yeah, I'm not the one being invested in, but okay.
Like, sure, should I be happy for you? What do you, they're like, yeah, look, our stores have been sloppy. But anyway, point being is that things are changing. I think we end up landing in a good spot. I think the world tends towards good, but I don't think it's always a straight path. And I think being equipped, having the tools and the resources and the communities to support that transition is really important. And it's something that you can grow with. So,
yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So without further ado, Zuck time, baby. It's
time
to Zuck. Yeah.
Most people know Zuckerberg from Facebook.
Most people know Zuck.
That's like,
Facebook, yes.
That's like the, if you don't even know anything about his background or like the things he's gotten into politically,
right?
He's like, oh yeah, he's the Facebook guy, right?
He's the Facebook guy. He's the Facebook guy,
which is true.
And I mean, there's a social network that really blew his whole story into the public arena. But
it's a lot more than that too. His story, I think it's just a lot more than that.
Yeah, and it's still being written. He's 41 right now.
Yep.
So, you know, he's just scratching the surface in terms of the impact, and I think he's also a person that's swinging for the fences. He's not somebody that likes to move slow. He's not somebody that likes to play it small. He's going for gold. And I think that there are good things that happen when you do that and bad things that happen. I think when that happens in the court of public opinion, it also changes things.
It does.
Especially when you're not really familiar with software and with technology. I think it could also change the way some of his actions are perceived. I don't think he's the best communicator, at least.
He's getting better.
Like verbally, and he's getting better. Yeah. But I do think he's very observant of human psychology and human behavior. And I think that that's played a huge role in his product development and his company building. So I think we're going to get into a little bit of this today. Yeah. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, let's start with a little background on his upbringing to kind of give like a good foundation of where he goes in life.
Yeah, no doubt. So he was born in White Plains, New York, May 14th, 1984. Raised in Dobbs Ferry, New York, in an upper middle class Jewish home. His dad was a dentist, his mom was a psychiatrist. And he took a liking to, I mean, he was grown with, I think had 3 sisters.
Yeah.
I think he was the youngest. And pretty early on, he discovered his love of programming. I think it was around 10 when he started programming actively. And his parents very quickly put him in a situation where they accelerated that. They got him tutor, and he was also actively building.
Something we should just pause on for a second, because that's something I had no idea about until just recently, doing the research on the Zuckerberg thing, was the fact that his parents got him a private tutor for computer programming before college.
Right.
Like, I just...
Break it down, because you went to school for computer science.
I was there for the 3 or 4 years it took me to get my degree.
Yeah.
And I had very limited knowledge going into college. And so I had to spend the time going through the courses as they were designed, 100, 200, 300, and then 400, to get my degree and to learn everything along the way. Zuckerberg had this at like 10 or 12, where like it's reported that he was, by the time he started college, he was already at or above graduate level programming knowledge.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I mean, it gives you a perspective on like just what you can do with that level of knowledge. If you're in like freshman level classes, you have a lot more time to explore ideas. You have a lot more time to actually build things.
And leverage all of the resources that are around you.
Yes.
That's a big thing. You have so much access to different computer facilities, especially at Harvard.
100%.
Where if you're not spending your time studying the basics just to kind of go through the curriculum, but you're already ahead because you've done all this stuff already for years.
Oh my gosh.
Then you're literally spending your time building things like Facebook, FaceMash, what was it? The
ZuckNet.
ZuckNet was in high school.
I
right?
know, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's how he
but
starts.
Even still, right?
You know?
Yeah. So that, like, I mean, I guess that proves the point even more because it started when he was.
And that's something where I think people are like, oh yeah, he dropped out of college. He dropped out of Harvard.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he didn't exactly need Harvard because he was already at that level where he could build an entire application from scratch,
right.
you know, going into his freshman level courses. And then, like you were saying, the sociology or psychology, I guess, laid on top of that, because I think he went to school for psychology.
Yeah,
that was like the main.
That was his main major.
Right.
Psychology, computer science. He already knew the computer science, but it goes even further because in psychology, his mom is a psychiatrist.
Yes,
and
so he definitely had some
a leg up in terms of, you know, being well prepared for the college space. But even in high school, he created ZuckNet, which was like an internal messaging system or messaging platform for all of the Zucks.
For the dentist's office.
Which was part of his home. And so they used to, you know, call back and forth. And so he built a messaging system where he could just send the messages back and forth between his father's office and then I think the receptionist. But then he also built a platform called Synapse, which was a music player. And Synapse was used machine learning to curate music or play music based off of the listener's preferences.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that was a pretty early thing that he built. Microsoft and AOL both offered to buy Synapse from him before he graduated from high school.
That's insane.
So even on top of that, before he even gets to college, he's already like, Microsoft offered me, AOL offered me.
Yeah.
I had a private tutor since I was like 11.
Yep.
And like at this point, it becomes a lot clearer why he was able to say, I think I'm going to take a little bit more chances here.
It also kind of shows you the compounding effects that happen when you start that early. You're kind of on this trajectory where like it makes sense a lot of things he's able to do in his later teens, early 20s,
right.
Building $1 billion company. Like it makes sense because you're like, I was spending those years trying to learn how to code, whereas he was 5 or 10 years ahead of me already. And so, you know, it's very, I think, obvious that kind of growth compounds over time.
Yeah. You also talk about how you've seen that in your classes when you were studying.
Yeah,
There were some people that had just had preparation before, and you could see it in their
100%. Yeah. So some classes in Michigan, specific. I know this is probably over the country, but I know in Michigan, some of the high schools are starting to offer programming classes. And so before you go to college, you might have 1 or 2 classes where it's like,
that's what my dad taught. Yeah, he taught at
the basics.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's like these kids come into college, and I was lucky enough to meet a couple of them that were flying through the 100 level, 200 level classes because they just had a leg up on everybody. You know, I was sitting there trying to learn it for the first time, and they're like, yeah, this is like the first time, my 3rd or 4th time seeing it.
Yeah.
And so it's not something where it's brand new. It's kind of just like reinforcing what they already know.
Yeah, and I'll even go one further because even though, I mean, I've seen my dad taught, he's retired now, he taught networking and cybersecurity systems.
Oh, yeah.
But there was another guy who taught programming at the high school level there.
Right.
And when I would go in there to, you know, help or, you know, give a talk or whatever, it was still interesting because there were some kids that were even like on another stratosphere.
Exactly.
Compared to those high school kids.
Yes, because they had home or something. Yeah.
Because it's like, and that's the thing with Zuckerberg is it's not just that he had the exposure early. It was also encouraged with a private tutor, and they seem to be pretty well off between a dentist and a psychiatrist.
Yes.
But then on top of that, with the layerings on both of the exposure and then having that reinforced is like he just had a passion for it. And I think
that also helps.
And so he was able to stick with it and then really push it, because you mentioned something before this where you said that he had his he was outpacing his tutor pretty early.
Yeah, that was some of the research I was able to gather was that by the time he got to college, he was already considered a graduate level programmer.
Yeah.
which is,
Came
again,
as like a prodigy.
I mean, that's kind of thing where it's like, I don't really have to pay attention in these classes to do what everyone else is doing. I can leverage my time to do other things.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is a really great big foundation. One thing that he also, this is something just to identify because it shows up throughout his life, is he said no to Microsoft and AOL. And there's just this pattern of him seeing an opportunity, other people making an offer, and him saying no. And that happens multiple times throughout his early career. But it's just a part of him. And also, before we go ahead, somebody who's been in the headlines, not for his business acumen, but for other reasons.
Yeah.
But it's still relevant to this, is Bill Gates.
Right.
Bill Gates, who we haven't covered on the Founders Drive yet, he had exposure very early on in his computer development. His parents were lawyers. They had access to, I forget which campus it was, over on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. But he had exposure to early computers, PCs, and that basically set him up on a trajectory where he was getting all of this programming experience and computing experience at an early age. Yes. And it just gave him an outsized advantage in terms of being able to spot opportunities and then take action on those opportunities.
Another one that's very similar is, like, pretty much any sports player is growing up doing this stuff at a very young age. It's very rare that you have someone at like 18 decide, oh yeah, I'm going to go play professional basketball player or something. They've done this from a very early age for a very long time.
Yeah, no, of course you see that. You see that with, but I would also say the teaching of it is really interesting. We can go down that rabbit hole for.
Oh yeah, no, I can play basketball at my local level. Yeah. I don't have LeBron as a dad who's going to teach me from my, you know what I mean? Like there's levels to this.
Or get you into.
Oh, of course, but that's a different conversation.
But the other thing that I want to highlight with Zuckerberg too is, it wasn't just the private tutoring. It was also the private tutoring in the mid 90s. Which changes things, right?
Yes,
because
it absolutely does.
He was born in 1984. By 95, he was having a private tutor with his programming right when the internet was coming up.
Yeah.
And so that's like having a and this still isn't the right equivalent, but that's like having a private tutor in artificial intelligence and quantum computing today at 13 years old. But there's so much.
That's a good one.
But the thing that's even crazier is that we have so much information around the world right now where there's people that are exposing themselves to that level of information.
Yeah.
Back then, the internet was just starting. Yeah. And so it was like, either you know it, or you're going to a library, or you're going to, a class, and that's how you're learning. So again, I think it's important to just kind of contextualize that aspect of it, because it sets the foundation. Because so many things happen so fast. He's worth millions of millions, if not $1 billion by 23.
Much more than $1 billion. Yeah.
So
I know he was offered $1 billion at like 18 or something.
Yeah. So, all right. So, but keeping this thing cooking.
So then we all know he goes to Harvard.
Yes.
This is, I think, between that.
Yeah. The Harvard years. And this is where he
didn't last very long. But
it didn't last very long. But this is where he really started continuing to build and continuing to develop his entrepreneurial mindset. There's a Social Network movie. He's quoted as saying, there's some falses in there's some truths, but who cares?
Yeah.
He didn't really, give much confirmation on the things that were true or false in that whole timeline.
The mystique.
The mystique, yes, yeah. But he started there by building something called CourseMatch. That was one of the first things that kind of had their own little viral moments amongst the Harvard student body. And that helped students choose between classes based on what others were talking about. Then he got into FaceMash. This compared photos of students. Users voted on the attractiveness. That didn't really go too well amongst people there. They said it was improper, yada yada. But people couldn't help themselves, and they wanted to engage with it, which I think is important.
I would say it went very well.
Yeah. If you look at it from usage and
traction and
but in terms of the he got the slap on the wrist, and people were upset. But it did show, okay, you can put something out there that might be a social taboo, and people will like it. People people may like it, and if they use it, and then you have something, you have their interest. And I think that's the psychology part of him and his computer science skills meeting each other.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know?
You think he was thinking about that when he made that app? Like, how can I use my psychology here, or it just came out naturally?
I don't know if it was a conscious thing. I don't know if I would say that it was also just unconscious, because there's a pattern of him continually like looking at people's preferences and taking that into account with what he builds. Again, it's more common now, but back then in 2002, it just wasn't as, much of a requirement. But I would say that even if it was unconscious, I think that he had a feel for it, an instinct for it,
like a taste.
Yeah, because I mean, he was well versed in building programs at that time, and then he also grew up with a psychiatrist parent.
Yeah, so you're probably just by secondhand smoke is kind of what I would refer to that as. You're gonna get some of those lessons. You're gonna get some of those ideas, those frames of mind, from being in that household. So I guess I could see it as like an unconscious thing. But I do know that a lot of people attribute a lot of his success to some of that psychology, and that's where I'm curious about how much was like intentional versus it just happened. Right.
Right. Well, I think we'll get into it a little bit in a little bit, but the thing that's really interesting is the Winklevoss situation that happened there. They recruited him to build out their social network that they wanted to launch. He famously delayed it, the building of it, while building his own social network, launched his social network, and then kind of like gave them theirs. And this was a huge deal. This is what the Social Network movie was based on. But this was a huge deal because they basically said he stole our idea. And when he really started getting traction, and when they really started jumping from school to school to school, it really started, growing. And they were like, wait a minute, we came to you with this idea. What happened here? So that was a big thing that happened around that area.
It's where it started, I know, because the interesting thing to me about that little debacle is the fact that it wasn't resolved for many years later. To the point where Facebook blew up within that time frame. And so now the Winklevosses are like, all right, we sued you when it wasn't big, but it is big now, and so they're getting some of that upside in the settlement that they had. Not only did they get Facebook shares, but they also got a very large sum of money that wouldn't have been possible if they would have settled the case back when they sued them. Very interesting, because, obviously it takes a long time to kind of prove, hey, did you steal this or whatnot? But I think it actually benefited them that they kind of waited for the settlement until Facebook was big enough to pay out.
So he paid them the equivalent of $65 million. I think, and so it was pretty big.
It was $20 million in cash and the rest in stock is what I think it was, the split there.
And so, do you think that he actually stole the idea?
Stole the idea? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't know if stealing is like the right word for it, because there's not really like an original, or maybe back then there was like an original thing, but like nowadays there's really not any original idea. It's just like another flavor of something that's already been tried.
It wasn't the only social network. I think there was maybe the aspect of the exclusivity, like it was only for Harvard students.
Could have been.
And they had like their email verification. That was another thing.
EDUs,
but like also making sure that it was a real person was a big thing. I don't know. I mean, the software game is ruthless in terms of.
I don't think it's software. I think it's business.
Okay. All right, talk on it.
Because I don't think that level of, I wouldn't call it steal or theft or whatever you want to call it, right, is solely in the software space. I think this happens in brick and mortars. It happens with all types of companies, shoe companies, right? All types of companies. They try and do this.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it too. We've talked about it with Estee Lauder. How she was very well known for guarding her fragrance formulas.
Exactly.
And only being the person that only knows like everything and how it connects.
Or Rockefeller.
The
refining of oil.
Same thing. Known for moving in silence. Treated it like war. And a lot of people do treat things like war. So there's not only the silence and the secrecy, but then there's the illusions and the camouflage that people have in terms of their ideas. But with software, it's just so easy to take things because it's so open and apparent. I think so even if he did say, oh, that's a great idea, I think what's interesting is you still have to execute on the idea.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of up in the air. It's not clear that the Winklevosses would have executed Facebook to the spot that it's at now.
Right.
It's just not clear.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're doing fine.
I would say, yeah. I mean, they went on to do their Bitcoin, and crypto stuff. But their whole thing was that he stalled while he should have built ours. But I think the execution stuff is incredible. Like, you have to be willing to say no when you get a big advance. And you don't know if they would have done that, but you don't know if they would. So,
right.
Yeah. So kind of fast forwarding a little bit, we get into the launch of Facebook. In 2004, they started really building this. Within 2 weeks, they had half of Harvard student body sign up, and then they called it the Facebook after the student directory at Phillips Exeter's Academy, which is where Zuck went for his junior and senior year. It was competing with Friendster, MySpace, but they were different because they required the verification. There's a couple notes that I want to get into on the super secret around that, and like the launch plan and things that we can
take. Go to market.
Yes, because I think there's stuff almost hidden in plain sight that are really beneficial. We might be able to take and learn from it, and other people might be able to take and learn from it as well. So
check it out.
I looked this way. And then so like he shipped pretty quick.
That's also like where he dropped out of school and moved over to Palo Alto to start the company, or to really, I guess it's an office and a bedroom.
And not really doing classes because he didn't really need to do the classes. He already knew the stuff. But then, like, after they launch, they get into this whole expansion era.
Yes.
And they, like you said, they move to Palo Alto. They meet Sean Parker. They get Peter Thiel, who we just covered a few episodes back, as one
first
$500,000 as the first investor. I think he got about 10% of the company, and he stayed on as a board member and a close advisor of them
until just recently. He just recently left the board, but rode that wave all the way.
But that's incredibly interesting when you think about it, because Zuckerberg is a psychology guy, and Thiel is known for really being intrigued by mimetic theory, Rene Girard's mimetic theory. And Rene Girard's mimetic theory basically says that people copy other people's desires. And so you can see the through line between their thinking and how that comes out in the things that they produce, and specifically around Facebook, but then also the other acquisitions, which we're going to get into in a second here. They ended up doing a $12.7 million Series A. 2005, they opened up to high school students. And then Yahoo offers $1 billion to acquire them in 2006. Zuck turns it down.
And this was big news at the time. I remember, like, he was on the big talk show, like CNN, Fox. He was talking to all these like TV anchors. And he looked like a young kid. He really looked very young. Because he was 17, 18, I think, at this time.
Probably like
no.
This was 2006.
So
he was 22.
22, yeah.
He was 22 at this time.
But still, I mean, at 22, I was, just graduated college. It's like,
with the company valued at $1 billion, he said no to Yahoo. His board was divided though, so that's another thing too. It's not like it's just him saying no, I'm going to keep this thing going. A lot of it is your board of advisors, your team, people that have been working with you for a long time saying, hey, I think we should sell. We get this huge payout.
I think Peter was one of those people that was like, we should consider selling.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was like, it's $1 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. That was
you have to have a lot of conviction in what you're building and what you're doing to say no. And in just one of the things that I saw from Zuckerberg, he was saying, like, if I take that $1 billion, what am I going to do? I'm probably going to start a social media company because that's what I like doing. But if that's what I'm going to do anyway, why don't I just build the one I have now?
Right. We have momentum, we have it all. And Yahoo has a funny way of,
Being the graveyard of
yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing if you can exit and get your bag.
Yeah.
Many companies have done that and been wildly successful.
If you want a bag, go to Yahoo. That's what they said. But they he said, he's quoted as saying, "I'm here to build something for the long term. Anything else is just a distraction."
Yeah.
So he knew what he wanted, and he went from it. But he
if he did sell, he'd go right back doing the same thing.
Right, exactly. So you see that, but you do see that track record of no.
Yes.
He also at that point said young people are smarter. He goes, young people are just smarter, and companies should bias towards hiring young people. This is in 2007. He's 23. He goes, this would become a recurring pattern. Zuckerberg saying something controversial. They're not really backing down. I think that, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think that young people are more active and are more hip to a lot of like the newer technologies. So
nowadays, it's even more impressive because you now have access to all these things. We talked a little bit before about how the knowledge was very institutionalized in the late 90s, early 2000s. With AI, it's very much democratized. It's so crazy how much knowledge you can get, even as a high schooler.
Yeah, but I think that the discerning the information is a big thing. A long time ago, my dad was telling me, he was like, in the future, it's not going to be about what you know, it's going to be about how you navigate the information. It's going to all be available. And I think that's really true. And so that's the discernment is the next tricky thing. But I'm curious in terms of how you know when to say no. Like, do you have a model around that?
Like a mental model in terms of like when to say no? I think I'm consistently weighing that upside and that future state with what the offer is. You know, like I'm consistently recalculating that because that's kind of, I think, why I'm making my decision is like the future play of that. Not necessarily in the moment, but obviously I think it's a very nuanced question because it kind of depends on what I'm saying no to. Like, I'm going to say no to Taco Bell, never. You know, but there might be some other place I'm like, yeah, probably not today.
Yeah. It's like, just making sure that you're weighing the offers and not just taking it blindly or saying yes to external pressures.
Yeah, I also really, it doesn't always happen. I really like to sleep on a decision. That's big.
Yeah.
Buying a car, buying a house.
It's smart.
You know, I like to step away from a little bit and get away from like that salesman pressure to just kind of be like, all right, is this really what I wanted? There's this thing where I go through it. I think a lot of other people go through it where the attraction or the thing that you want, the value of it goes down once you have it. So when you don't have it, the value for you that you perceive is extremely high. When you have it, it goes extremely down because it's like, okay, I have it, it's not as exciting. Then when you don't have it again, it goes back up. It kind of matches that some of that mimetic desire. You know? But it's just interesting. I found that not everything I've wanted beforehand keeps that same level of excitement after I have it. And so I've, you know, had to temper myself and say, maybe I give myself a day to say no to this. If it's going to be something that I'm going to have not necessarily buyer's remorse, but like, oh, this isn't exactly
what I was looking for, what I want. Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you have any mental models around saying no?
Not specifically. I think you covered a lot of it. It's just really weighing the offer and seeing how it aligns both now and how it plays out after. And I think thinking
you
about
probably wouldn't go to Taco Bell.
No, sometimes I have to say no
because that future offer is just not worth it.
As Cat Williams said, sometimes you got to tell Diddy no. You got to tell Diddy no, and I think that, and I think there's, but I think it's like weighing what you want and what you're giving up to get it. That's a big thing, and the opportunity cost and the trade-offs. I mean, that is a big economic thing. Is just considering trade-offs, considering the biggest opportunity cost. And making sure that stuff is just weighed and that you can live with yourself after.
Yeah, and that's, I think, another reason why we make Constants so easy to use. It's completely free. You can start right now. You're not going to have any of that buyer's remorse. You're going to be happy that you started today.
I mean, it's lifting a finger, pressing a couple buttons, and then unlocking a whole bunch of opportunity for your life. It just makes so much sense. But that goes to the whole thing in times of today where there was so much effort that had to be put towards an opportunity that you kind of had to take a leap of faith before. Now everything is so accessible that people are getting paralyzed by their
indecision.
Their indecision and the choices that are out there. But I will say that with Constance, I mean, if you're listening to this, then we already have a form of a relationship. I mean, we're speaking, you're listening to us, you might be in your headphones or whatever. But I think that this is a showing of the value that we think that we're offering. By doing this regularly and speaking about that. And I don't think that you get that from other areas. And so I think part of it is also just the filtering of the offers that are coming to me. It's like, am I even looking in the right direction? Am I using a good rubric to make sure that it's a good offer for me? And if it's not aligned with my values, that's actually what I would say is that if it's aligned with my values, then the offer is easy. If it's not, then, you know, it's not as clear to make a decision. And that's when I have to kind of think on it a little bit more, or wait and see. But I'm learning more and more, if something doesn't align with my values, then it's easier for me to be like, it's becoming easier for me to be like, I'm just saying no, you know? Just say no, kids. Just say no.
Dare doesn't work.
So we have Building the Machine, 2007 to 2012. Microsoft invests $240 million for a 1.6% stake. Facebook is now valued at $15 billion. Zuckerberg jumps up to $1.5 billion for his net worth, and this is only when he's only 23 at the time.
The youngest at the time, youngest self-made billionaire.
Yes. Yeah.
What?
Crazy, right?
What?
2008, Winklevoss lawsuit. They settled for $65 million. Like you said, $20 million cash, $45 million in stock. Digital Sky Technologies invests $200 million for a 1.96% stake. Facebook reaches 500 million users by 2010.
Yep.
The Social Network drops 2010 as well.
The movie,
wins multiple Academy Awards. And then Zuckerberg is named the Time Person of the Year in 2010. On May 12th, Facebook IPOs at $38 per share, valuing the company at $104 billion.
Don't you wish you would have bought that and held it?
At 38.
At 38.
And then...
But most people at the time were like, yeah, this isn't it.
Well, because it drops to $17 pretty early on. And people didn't really know how to value a social media company in a public setting.
Right.
And so it took a little bit for people to, you know, kind of figure that out. But if you look at the numbers right now, man, it's like,
God.
They are...
Do we even want to let people know?
You go look them up for yourself. Or maybe we talk about it as...
I think we super secret this because this is insane what these numbers are.
Oh my God. Especially when you look at the balance sheet. Maybe we walk through that. Because this is a business podcast. We talk about the arcs, but we don't really... of the characters and their backgrounds, but we don't really talk about those numbers really. And I think that's a big thing that I'm interested in. We're business people, so we'll save that for the super secret. IPO disaster. Disaster, right? It's like, but people also don't realize that once you IPO, the price is tied to a public perception.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's traded on the secondary market.
Right.
And so that's a big thing to understand, which again, it doesn't really get talked about on headlines for whatever reason, but he got married then, and then this kind of shifts, and so it's just a kind of a landmark moment for him. We then shift into the acquisitions, where he went on this flurry of acquisitions over the course of a couple of years. He's
still doing it, honestly.
In 2012, he acquired Instagram for $1 billion. They had 13 employees, no revenue.
Which at the time, everyone said that was stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it's $1 billion that he stored there. He famously said no. And Kevin, what is it? Vanderstam, I think. Vanstrom? I don't remember his name exactly. But he was a creator there, and he said, yeah, I mean, I'll come on board. In 2014, they acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion with 55 employees.
Yep, which... huge investment.
Yeah.
Great investment, too.
Great international investment.
Exactly.
And then also just the data play.
Yep.
And then in 2014, they also acquired Oculus VR.
Another big one for the next roadmap.
Yep. And we're seeing the fruits of that right now with the metaverse, which we can talk about in a second here. And then also the
failed one, right?
Yep, which is Snapchat. He attempted to acquire them for $3 billion, and then Spiegel said no. And then you famously saw Zuckerberg start to copy the Snapchat features, and then start putting those in Instagram. And you know, Snapchat's still around. Facebook is in Meta is still around.
Do you think that was a mistake?
Snapchat saying no?
In hindsight, if you were on the Snapchat team, do you think it would have been a mistake?
No, because they
really,
because they ended up IPOing and ended up not only making more than enough money to recoup that offer, but then they also ended up keeping the company alive and the vision alive. And I think that Spiegel is also in that vein too, where he had his own vision for where he wanted to take things, and he knew to say no.
That's interesting. I feel like they definitely could have gone a lot bigger, but they wouldn't have been in control. And that's a trade-off, right? Those values.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You think they might have grown a little bit like faster?
I think I think it's pretty obvious. Zuckerberg had the platform, the engineering talent, and the execution to make that platform grow like he did Instagram and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And Facebook. Problem is, obviously, now he controls it and he's kind of the ball. You know, there's a lot of other downsides to not running your own company in your own vision with your own ideas.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of values, that's probably why I would imagine they said no. I mean, yeah, they went on to do pretty good success. I'm just curious how much it would have been increased, right, if they would have teamed up.
Yeah. Cool. So, Zuck, where are we at?
We're getting right into some of the political stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was 2014 and 15-ish.
Yeah.
And then we get into the 2016 election.
Yeah. Real quick though, just to kind of button up those acquisition plays.
Yeah.
Just he's always monitoring this stuff. He goes, Instagram seems like it's growing quickly. In 4 months, they're up to 2 million users. We need to track this closely. And he said if Instagram continues to kick ass on mobile, they could easily add pieces of their service that copy what we're doing now.
Yes.
Then he said in 2012, I think what we do is keep their products running, just not add more features to it, and focus future development on our products. By not killing their products, we prevent everyone from hating us. And then the biggest competitive vector, this is on WhatsApp, biggest competitive vector for us is for some company to build out a messaging app for communicating with small groups of people, then transforming that into a broader social network. So he also sees how platforms and applications can transform over time. So he's kind of trying to
his own G's.
nip it in the bud, before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And then so it's kind of like a buy or bury strategy, this whole win at all cost strategy, and you can see the echoes of Peter Thiel.
Yes.
In these whole plays.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so then we skip into the reckoning, the 2016 to 2019. And this is when people started really leveraging the social networks that he's created, specifically Facebook, to affect politics. And this just goes into another sphere. November 2016, Trump wins. Facebook was blamed for spreading a lot of political misinformation. Cambridge Analytica scandal. This is where they basically reverse engineered different bases of voters and communicated with these people to basically
turn the vote.
Exactly, to turn the vote.
Yeah, that was the whole deal, was if we can use machine learning and data science to specifically target people that are on the fence and people that are not in a specific camp at the moment, we can actually sway the election, which they
did.
I said, I mean, I don't know if that's like 100%, but I mean, I would say they swung the election.
They harvested data of 87 million users without consent. And in April 2018, Zuckerberg testified before Congress for 10 hours. I remember that. They were asking the most off-base questions.
They still do. People in Congress are not smart
about technology.
Yeah, they're not smart at all.
They know how to BS with legalese and all of that.
Terrible.
But in the whole political drama, but they just don't know about technology and the state of technology. And it's laughable almost.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Especially when they started asking about all the TikTok stuff recently.
Oh my God.
Does TikTok connect to my Wi-Fi? Oh my God, dude. But yeah, no, that's not the last time he was in some of these political and other, I would say, events.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a big one. The Cambridge Analytica one went headlines during that campaign and after it.
He said that when we heard back from Cambridge Analytica that they had told us they weren't using the data and deleted it. We considered it a closed case. In retrospect, that was a clear mistake. Yeah, so they didn't really understand how that was working.
Do you think people are doing that today?
What, the data harvesting and the...
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's a different animal, though.
What do you mean?
I think it's... With AI, it changes how people interact with machines and how we're influenced. And I think there is a big influence that's happening. It's just not happening in the exact same way. I think when you look at the 2008 election with Barack Obama, he won largely because of social media. And it was different though. It was just the exposure on social media that allowed him to get his message and his word out and really grow. I think by 2016, Trump and Steve Bannon put together a group of people that said, okay, instead of just being present on social media, maybe we can influence people before they even realize who they want to vote for.
Right.
And they were a little bit more preemptive there. And I think with in this past election, we started to see the pronouncement of podcasts and how much leveraging the social media that kind of echoes back to 2008. But I think with artificial intelligence, I mean, it's changing things, especially now with fake videos.
Yeah.
And how much that's really, changing the game, and changing how things work. And then on top of that, with artificial intelligence, there's just different ways where you can, create up agents and do so many different things. So yeah, I think it's really changed the game. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that things are trying to influence you all of the time, all over the place.
Yeah.
Because there's, even all the billboards you look at driving down the road, they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to get you to purchase a product.
Yeah.
And it's subtle, but it's happening. And so I think it's just one of those things that it's kind of par for the course, and you have to be aware of it so that you're not tricked into looking at stuff and being like, okay, I just need to believe what I'm seeing. Because somebody on the other side of the screen might be trying to politically charge you, or not politically, just charge you up in a different way, shape, or form to get you to act in the way that they want you to act. So I think it's really just an awareness thing, because it is happening right now, and so just be aware of it.
Yeah. So we now entered into this new phase, where it's the meta phase, and they
rebranded.
Yeah, and they unified the companies. Well, it actually all used to be around Facebook, and then they unified it.
Right.
Meta's the new company, and it was largely because he said, we want to focus on the metaverse. We are a metaverse first company.
And what is the metaverse?
The metaverse is a digital online representation of the real world, I guess. Is that what they're
I don't even know if it's the real world. I think they were just like, it's just digital world.
It's just a digital world.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
It's
like a play on the whole multiverse type thing.
Yeah.
People weren't really hip to it. I know that he got a lot of flack for investing so much in reality labs.
Yeah, but I think if you watch the Super Secret episode that we go through the numbers, I don't think he spent that much money.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's not even close.
In terms of like what he had available to him.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting, the perception on like, wow, he lost a crap ton of money investing in this.
You hear a big number.
Exactly.
You hear a big number, and it changes the whole perception of things.
But it's not contextualized.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, the metaverse, I think it hasn't materialized in a way that shows a return on investment that I think he was looking for.
Yeah, I think that he might have thought it was going to happen faster. But I also think some of the technology that he has around it is very impressive. Looking at the AR VR stuff that they've been doing, the photorealistic AR VR, the networking, and what they've been doing to build the infrastructure for the metaverse. But again, I think it was just, to your point, a little bit early, like the time horizon wasn't as long as he might have initially anticipated.
I think it did open up a door for them, for Meta, to get into wearable tech, which they didn't really have an opening for.
Yeah.
But with the Oculus and the VR, I mean, you can also look at Palmer, who we're going to do a Founders Drive on soon. with Anduril, like he started with Oculus, he started with the VR. Like you can see if you were going to stay on that lane, where you can get to, in terms of like military funding and stuff like that. But with Meta, the open door for like wearables, like I bought the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. And I think it's a fantastic piece of technology that once they start integrating some of the actual Meta features into it, because right now it's just like a really basic AI chatbot that can tell you like really basic stuff, but over the course of time, I think they're going to start doing the things that like OpenAI is trying to do with their wearable AI.
Yeah. They put a lot of investment into that technology, and also with the bracelets and the doing non-intrusive
mapping of the body to the signals.
Yeah. Cool. So in the super secret, let's get into a little bit more of the details. I think we can break down some of his philosophies as well too.
Yep. And I'm also going to go into a little bit of his continued strategy in this new AI world, where he, just made Alexander Wang a billionaire, and a couple of the other moves he's been making in this new AI era that I think a lot of people can learn from. So yeah, I'm excited to get into that in the super secret.
Cool.
Anything else? All right, then we'll see you in the super secret. Peace.